And you, of course, you mentioned Ronda have switched over from MMA to wrestling. There's been more men who've done it in ahead of you, like Brock Lesnar,
of course,
CM Punk, Ken Shamrock, a few famous examples. Why do you think women have been slower to come across, or have they?
Yeah, so I was the first female to be an MMA fighter and to make the transition into WWE. And I remember at the time when I was signed, Canyon Seaman, who did the hiring, was like, you bring something that no one's ever brought to WWE. And so it was so unique because I don't think had a woman with that kind of level of intensity and aggression. And I think it's really added to the roster. Now we have me, Ronda, Shayna Baszler, Marina, Jessamine, and it's a really cool dynamic. Why the transition took so long? I think just the evolution of women has been ongoing, and we're still on that like upward climb kind of thing. Like we just had women in the UFC starting what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Not that long ago. And so for them to get the publicity and to get the opportunity to come over here, and also the wave of the women's division has changed. It used to be the Divas division. It used to be all about the glitz and the glam. Not getting down and beating the crap out of each other. So it's just the evolution of the sport and the world in general. So
I remember like when women's wrestling started in WWE, like it was like Sensational Sherry, who was Macho Man's manager / wife, and Alundra Blaze, I remember, was one of the first champions, and she had this like bright pink belt, which even as a kid I thought was very patronizing. Like as an 8-year-old, I was like, you know, these women are here to fight, you know. But I'm glad it's come on so far. And is it like on equal footing now, do you think? Like I see in the UFC, like performance bonuses and fight night bonuses are the same as the men if the women earn it. Like is the pay behind the scenes, are men and women on equal footing now, do you think?
Yeah, I think we're doing a great job, and with girls like Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Bayley and Sasha being kind of at the forefront right now, and then all of us adding to the game, and Ronda Rousey being here for the last like year and a half. I think we're right up there with the dudes. The biggest telltale sign to me is when I look at the card on live events, which are the events we do all year round that aren't televised. And there's like 5 women's matches on most live events now. So we're taking over half, if not more, of the card. And so that's like, okay.
And there's women-led
PPV
events as well.
Yeah, there's main event pay-per-views all the time. The biggest was WrestleMania. It's main evented by Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. I mean, how much bigger can you get, right?
I know, crazy. And what do you make of Ronda? I mean, Ronda obviously probably the most famous female fighter in the world, I'd say. What do you make of her transition over? You've watched it, I assume, with interest.
Yeah, she did a great job. Wrestling is not easy. And it takes a while. I think you could look more natural going into an MMA fight with no experience than going into a wrestling fight with no experience.
That's an interesting point, yeah.
Because wrestling, you have to know to work with your partner, and there's so much to learn. There's so many intricacies to wrestling. And so Ronda picked it up quick. She's obviously an athlete. She's a stud. She did an amazing job. And her, like I said, her intensity and aggression is what transferred, which is similar to how my transfer kind of went. It was like, okay, you might not finesse every single move perfectly, but the passion's there and the intensity's there, and that kind of can make up for a lot of other stuff. Me and Ronda have words with each other in this season of Total Divas. It gets a little interesting, so you guys are going to have to tune in. Tuesday nights on E! To see that kind of play out.
Well, I was actually going to ask about that because I see, Ronda, as you mentioned, you were first over. Ronda's really following your blazed trail. And also, she's like, again, she's obviously very famous, but she seems to be getting a lot of the attention and maybe detracting attention from the other divas and the other cast members. Is there any sort of a soreness behind the scenes about that? Like she wanders in at season 9 and is now sort of the main attraction?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of understands it. And with that, she brings her huge fan base. And it's beneficial to us all that more eyes and more viewership is on the show. So no, I'm personally not salty about that at all. And, you know, she deserves it. She worked her ass off. She was in the Olympics. She was a UFC champion. You know, she's a very successful woman, and she deserves the success she gets.
And I think you see the same thing with Conor McGregor. He irritates a lot of people, but they can't argue with the bums on the seats and the eyeballs on the screen.
Exactly. It's like you can hate all you want, but at the end of the day, it's progressing the company as a whole.
Of course.
We're part of the company.